Okay, then I suggest we get started. The webinar will be in English because the partner BeWo that we invited today to give the webinar is from Denmark. So if we're gonna do it in Dutch and they have to do it in Dutch, that's gonna be a challenge. So welcome everybody. My name is Martijn Lokheijn and I work at ABC Business as a sales advisor. And well, today I'm not going to say so much. For that, we invited BeWo on this webinar about climate reporting. And with me today is Mikkel. And of course, Mikkel is going to introduce himself and BeWo. And so, Mikkel, I will give the stage to you.
Yeah, thank you,
And if there
Martijn.
are any questions, just put them in the chat or in the Q&A, and we will follow up, of course, during the webinar.
Yeah, please ask any questions you may have, and I'll try to answer them either in the presentation or afterwards. But yeah, thank you for the invitation. And yeah, my name is Mikkel. I'm the CEO and co-founder of BeWo. It's short for Better World. And today I'm looking forward to present what we're doing and how we automate carbon accounting and all the climate reporting for ESG purposes. So yeah, let's jump into it. I'll just share my screen here and off we go. Can you follow along?
Yes, it's clear now. Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. We are an AI-enabled CO2 engine for Business Central. And if you are curious about what BeWo stands for, it's just short for Better Worlds. And today we will be talking about a little bit about what's happening in sustainability, and also how do we actually automate these CO2 calculations with AI. And before we do that, to introduce myself and the startup we have around 5 years of experience with sustainability. And today we're around 15 people and have some great both customers and investors behind us who are all committed to carbon reductions and of course attacking climate change head on. We started 5 years ago with some really strong tech competencies, and the very first can say pilot project that we got was actually to help a company solve this problem of measuring the CO2 the carbon footprint across a whole company. And since then, we've been chasing the perfect solution. How do you actually automate it and make it a good process? And I'm looking forward to share that with you today. But before we do that, let's jump into the part about the market. At the moment, we see that ESG has hit everyone. The EU came out with the news the other day that they're changing a little bit about the requirements on who are reported or mandated to report by law. And generally, if you are over 1,000 employees, you will now be mandated to report on the legislation CSRD. But most other companies will be looking towards the voluntary standard called VSME. And that's pretty much this framework that everybody will be reporting under, where there's the E, S, and G part. We help pretty much with all the measures of the environment, so the carbon footprint of it. But of course, you can always also manage social and governance, and some of it in Business Central as well. And what we're seeing in the market is that the focus right now is actually a little bit less compliance driven. But for the bigger companies, CO2 is a really, really strategic focus. So if you are a company that either is in that large company category, or you have customers that are going to report in the future, they care a lot about the CO2 data that you have today, because you're part of the value chain. And the only way that we can tackle these problems is actually by sharing our carbon footprint with our customers in the future. And we see that this is actually a really, really strong opportunity to collaborate more closely with your customers, especially if you're exchanging this information on a daily basis, because it's going to help your customers actually position themselves in the market and make the right changes going forward. And of course, select you as a supplier that they can collaborate with. And we're starting to see a lot of these examples in the market at the moment. It could be the wholesaler that needs to communicate the carbon footprint for their B2B customers. It could be the cleaning company that needs to state the carbon footprint per project that they are delivering. It could be the production company that needs to state the carbon footprint per product, and so on. So there's so many use cases out there where it's becoming a strategic element in the customer relationship. And that's pretty much the common denominator for all the companies that we are working with. They have ESG as a strategic element. So it could be both in the heavy wholesale and production, a lot of transactions, but could also be in the dynamic companies that are providing services, and something new is happening every single time in Business Central. We're doing a lot in construction as well, because there's a huge movement to bring the carbon footprint down on buildings and construction in general. So our journey, it started 5 years ago, and the project that we got handed off with was actually measuring the carbon footprint of a company. And how do you do that? We started in Excel, and we actually did I think many hundreds of hours of work, and we saw that, okay, this is pretty tough to do as a company, so maybe we can build a product around it. We're really fortunate that the company that we work with, they ended up winning the sustainability award for the award for the best sustainability report in the SME segment 2 years in a row, awarded by the UN Global Compact. So we were like, okay, we can do something with this, and it's a really good statement. But the issue that we found was that if you want to do this, it's going to take a long time to do it manually by hand. Because there's a lot of data points that you need to register. And when you do it, it's also quite difficult to figure out if you're actually doing the right thing or not, because CO2 emissions are very vague. It's not like a price that you can that you can see instantly. It's 100 kilos of CO2, and what does that mean? So you need a system to help you navigate that complexity, and that's what we're trying to build. And what we've done is actually turn the whole issue around, upside down. So what if you could just use the data that you have and let AI actually read it for you and do the carbon emissions calculations automatically? And that's what we built for Business Central. So we can actually connect to the most important data for CO2 calculations, which is your purchases and also general business activities. So you are actually calculating CO2 on everything you're buying, but it could also be like activities such as your employees going on business travel and moving in their cars and similar. And we can actually do this with AI. So we pull out the documents, and we actually go into the purchase invoices and go line by line to figure out what you have actually bought. So it's not like on a what I can say, a high level category, but we're actually looking at the specific line with AI, and we are looking, does it say what you've bought? Maybe there's an amount, maybe there's a quantity or a volume of something, and it can actually provide a very accurate carbon footprint statement. And this we can do in general for an average business in around 24 hours. And during that time, you will of course have to wait on our system a little bit, but then we basically have a result going back in time, and we will also be following along when you're registering new data in Business Central. We will of course pick up the new purchase invoices and general ledger entries that you're doing to figure out the carbon footprint of that data. And what I want to show today is how we get started in less than an hour with ABC. And it starts with the ERP connection, and we end with a daily CO2 report with a really, really good accuracy compared to what you could do by hand or similar. And the whole process starts through our app. We are on AppSource, so the marketplace for apps that you install to Business Central, which means that we can not only read the data, but we also maintain this connection. So you don't have to do anything in the future. If Business Central comes with an upgrade, we upgrade. So that's managed entirely automatically. And then after that, we will go into our software, because we're a third-party system for CO2 calculations and ESG reporting. So we have, of course, built it around that, because there's some processes that you need to go through. And when we're configuring the integration, we're looking at enabling the companies that you want to report on. So you can actually do carbon calculations across companies if you have subsidiaries or similar in multiple different countries. And we will also be looking at the reporting years. So we want to have an established carbon baseline, essentially a statement going back in time, so you have something to compare to. And when you're doing CO2 calculations, you always follow the reporting year, so the financial reporting year, which could be from January to December, but it could also be a skewed period if you have that in your company. And lastly, the way that we look at CO2 is qualified by the expense accounts. So in the setup phase, you will go through all of your accounts and see, okay, are they relevant for CO2? So in this example I have here on the screen, we want to, for example, calculate CO2 on new office purchases, office supplies, so pens and paper, but also chairs and tables. It could be new items that you bought. It could be your electricity bill, those kind of things. And of course, we have a guide. It usually takes us about half an hour. The record for doing this setup is actually 13 minutes, so it's quite quick. And the benefit of this one-time setup is actually we don't have to invent a new process. You can use the financial process that you have. So we won't touch any of your purchase invoice registrations or the way that you do financial accounting today, but we will be looking at what's happening and essentially calculating CO2 on behalf of that. And we see it as a big plus, and auditors do as well, because they know the financial side, and it's quite easy to keep it in sync if you can always link to a voucher or purchase invoice in Business Central or similar. And if you are not on-premise yet and you're talking to EBC about this, we also have opportunities to get data from on-premise systems and other systems, but that's usually done through a data warehouse. So you load up the same data that we would be looking at in Business Central to something like Fabric or an Azure SQL server. So we can look at it in the cloud and also synchronize with the data on a daily basis. And then it's actually it's up to our AI engine to do the work after we have done the setup. And in the 24 hours, we have a data pipeline that I'm going to show later, where we actually will do our very best to go through all your documents and many thousand lines to figure out the carbon footprint of it. And what we do in the background is actually when we open up a document, we look at the line and we try to extract information. That could also be, in this case, there's bought some coffee and it was a kilo of coffee. This is in the text, and it can actually provide a lot of valuable information that we can use to make an accurate calculation. And that's what we do on the fly with thousands of documents at a time. By now, we have scanned millions and millions of different invoices, so it can definitely handle a lot, I would say. And during this time, we will be matching against an emission factor database that we have in our backend. So there's a lot of databases for calculating CO2 on the public internet, and every time you do a calculation, you need to say how you did it and which database you used, and that's what we always do in the background. You can always say if you have your own calculations, for example, if you've done something on your products or you have more specific emission factors, there is possibility to add that to the system as well. And when we look at carbon calculations, we actually trying to do the very best with the data, because that's how you do scope 3, for example. So we will actually be looking at an invoice, and if your supplier states CO2 on the invoice, like I said in the beginning, communicate CO2 to your customers, there's always also going to be CO2 on your purchase invoices. And that's actually the best information that we can use in our calculations. But if we can't do that, we have to match it with a database, emission factor database. So this can either be on a product-based level or an activity-based level. Product level is the specific product. So usually it's a supplier that has uploaded an analysis of their very special product, and activity-based would be like average products. So in this case, we have some cement, and there's been a supplier that has uploaded a specific analysis of their cement versus the average, which is a little bit higher. And lastly, if we cannot do any of these things, usually it's because the emission factors are not available or the data is not stated on the invoice, then we will use the spend-based approach. So how many euros have you spent in a specific product category or industry as a whole? That usually gives a higher result. In this case, a bit over the other approaches, but that's what you have to do, and you should see it as a journey in this what can you say in improving the data quality over time. So there will be more emission factor databases that gets upgraded every year, but there will also be better information from your suppliers, which means that we all get more accurate in scope 3 over time. In terms of scope 2, we also have built quite specific AI for actually handling something like an electricity bill or a heating bill or gas or similar, because we need to extract that information. So we actually pull in these documents in an AI, and we actually pull out the information on the get-go, just to handle some of these scenarios. Then once the engine is done, you can actually go into our software and you can review your results. So that's like the next step, is that you review before you report. And we're going to see a little bit later, but the general idea is that you're going to be looking at your different categories of CO2, and you'll be going through the biggest and the most important ones first. And you can always go down into the small transactions if you want to, but in general, this is a much better approach compared to going just line by line. And then we have, of course, built a reporting dashboard around CO2, which is where you will see, of course, your emission development over time. You can see the largest categories that you've purchased. You can look at your vendors, which of them are emitting the most in your scope 3, and also, of course, your reporting statement. Because the reporting statement is usually what you want to have in your sustainability report, or if you communicate to your customers, it's always good to have like a general report for your company and specific information on what your customers has purchased as well. And if you're one of those companies that needs to report on CSRD in the future, we of course have a lot of alignment with many of the different categories within climate change. So the CO2 part of the ESG reporting framework. And we can in general help with all the quantitative numbers. And then the process pretty much ends in our software, but pretty much all of our customers, they bring the data into something like Power BI to unlock the value of the data that we have. So we can build a good dashboard in our software, but everyone wants to have their own. And that's because you need to do something with this data. So what we see is that companies are building specific dashboards to specific roles. So finance might have a dashboard that has all of the information across the whole company and all vendors, and but you might want to have a specific dashboard on just the business travel for your employees, so they can figure out to optimize their travel behavior. So there are many different ways that you can build dashboards around this. And then, of course, you can communicate customers or CO₂ to customers. You can build dashboards on specific dimensions in Business Central to actually have a specific dashboard on a customer level. It's also a very, very good way to collaborate with suppliers. So you can pull up your dashboard from your supplier. And not only can you see exactly what you've bought, but also the carbon footprint of all the products that you've bought from that supplier, and just changes the conversation with that supplier. And we have seen quite some examples of this. One of our customers, Change Group, they have their consulting company, and they are providing CO₂ statements on their consultancy projects. And they are using our software to actively identify how they can change their business and reduce their carbon footprint. One of our construction companies, they used our data set to identify exactly which materials have emitted the most in their construction. And now they have implemented a procurement policy to actually change some of the most important materials that they have to reduce their emissions. Our restaurant customer, Bones, they have leveraged our data to find a way forward in their sustainability strategy. For them, it's really important to have that overview across all their different restaurants, so they can pinpoint the exact carbon emission across scope 1, 2, and 3. And if you're curious about the pricing for the software, it's around 268 euros a month, and that starts from that level on Business Central. And you can always try our pricing calculator to see which package works for you. Essentially, it scales by the amount of lines that you're using our AI. And in general, most companies in Business Central can stay on the 268 level. But of course, if you have a group with 10 different companies, you might move a little bit up. So there's a slider where you can play around with how many purchase invoices you have a month. And when we set up the system, we will also make an estimation for you. In the end, what we see is that if you are looking at alternatives to what you can do in Business Central or other systems, we save a lot of time. Just doing one calculation in for example, the sustainability module in Business Central would take you at least 30 seconds. And if you're looking at a medium-sized company, this might be 11 weeks of non-stop manual entry for a year, just for a simple medium-sized business. So that's what we're trying to avoid. Let's set up the system in a meeting and let the AI do the work, and you can spend around 2 to 20 hours, depending on how big of a company you are and how many transactions you have, to review the results and do your reporting. And of course, the AI will look at everything on a daily basis, so you don't have to do that big project at the end of the year, but it just happens with your Business Central data registration. Yeah, let's jump into the demo to see how it works. I'll just do a quick walkthrough of the software. And please let me know if you have any questions. I'll be happy to answer them. All right. Here we go. Can you see my screen?
Yes, the screen is there.
Fantastic. So once you're signing up to BeWo, you will get a workspace, and a workspace essentially is one or more companies in one place, because you want to consolidate your carbon emissions reporting usually. And in the homepage, you have your data collection, which is the integration that we have to set up to Business Central. And there's, of course, the data processing that we saw, our data optimizer, where you can optimize your results and do the small tweaks. And lastly, of course, you can extract the reports that you need to actually put it into Power BI and build exactly what you want. On the integrations, we're going to set up a connection to your Business Central, and this is essentially where you maintain what's happening, and this we will do on the setup meeting. In the data pipeline, you'll be looking at what's happening with the data that's coming in. So in the beginning, there's going to be a lot of data in the waiting for processing stage, you see here, where the AI will pick it up, going document by document. It takes around, I think, 3 to 5 seconds per invoice, and we can do many at once, but it's not going to be instant. In this example, we have scanned a little bit under 3,000 invoices, and in the processing, it will land in one of these I would say buckets. So most of it is going to be ready to go. It's fine, but there's always going to be a few examples where our system will check for example, inconsistencies between the invoice and the data in Business Central, and it will say to you, hey, this is probably a good thing to look at. But in general, this is very little based on the transactions that we see. And then you will be moving into the data optimizer, where you can actually start to work with your data. So in this example, we have a few different lines for restaurant, and you can immediately see that, okay, you should probably look at the lines with the beef. It's a lot in your CO2, so it's important that you check these first and you review it to make sure that it's correct, and that's the general workflow that you'll be going through. You can also look at your vendors and see, okay, who are emitting the most, and do the checks there after the AI has done its work. And lastly, we have our exports feature, so you can get a statement, for example, for your carbon emissions across scope 1, 2, and 3. But you can also get this list of inputs, so everything that's gone into the system, including the emission factor databases and the method we used, and links to the dimension and the company information similar, which is essentially what you will be using if you want to show this to an auditor or similar. And of course, we also have a dashboard where you can see exactly what's happening. So your carbon emissions over time across the different scopes. We have KPIs for tracking the most important things for you, which could be your emissions per employee or per million in euros revenue, or also custom KPIs such as how much CO2 am I emitting per square meter if I have a warehouse or an office I'm renting out or similar. You also have data across your facilities. So in this Danish example, we have a lot of emissions in Copenhagen and a little bit in Aarhus, another city. And of course, the reporting statement across the different scope categories, and you can also view some of the vendors' emissions and general purchase categories and track that. So this is the quick walkthrough of our software. And of course, if you have any questions, we can always set up a follow-up meeting and go through it. And I think before we round off for today, we would like to invite to a free ESG assessment. Essentially, it's a meeting where you get the opportunity to try our software on your Business Central data. It's a meeting where we can set it up and offer, of course, a 14-day free trial, so you can see, okay, how did it work for my data and what was my CO2 statement. And of course, we will also be looking at some of the other considerations you have. For example, how does it make sense to report? Which kind of BI dashboards do you want to showcase this with? Can you send CO2 to your customers and all those kind of things? Yeah. So that's reach out to the ABC team, and we'll set up a meeting where we'll talk all these things through. That's what we have for today. But thank you for tuning in.
Thank you very much, Mikkel. There were a few questions in the chat, but your colleague already answered them, so that's been taken care of. I don't know if there's any other questions. I can have quick look. I don't see any new questions in the chat right now, but of course, if somebody has any questions in a later moment, they can always reach out to me and or to you, straight to you, to Mikkel. And of course, we're going to follow up then the questions.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Okay. That brings us to the end of the webinar. Thank you very much, Mikkel. It was a very clear story.
Yeah.
And looking forward to the next meetings with you.
Great. Have a good day, everyone.